Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada.
Pretty good. Is that your own Madanga? Pretty good, huh? So I'm sitting over here, but the screen is over there, and you're going to have to situate yourself so you can see the screen over there. This is the final evening of this visit to Naperville area. What town are we in? Whose home is this? What town is this?
Yorkville. Yorkville. Yorkville.
Yorkville. Yorkville. The topic for these evening classes has been the prayers of Brahma to Krishna, found in Canto 10, Chapter 11. Is this your home? You live here? It's nice having some guests, huh? We won't be here too long, don't worry. Do you know who that person is on the screen up there? Looking at Mom. He's, you see he has 4 heads? Take a look, check it out, 4 heads. You see anybody with 4 heads before? Now you have.
I have, but I don't know his name.
Okay. He's, his name is Brahma, Brahma, Brahma. And according to the Vedic literatures, he's the firstborn living being, born directly from the body of Lord Vishnu, because Vishnu is the source of creation And Brahma is kind of like the secondary creator. Secondary creator means he's like an engineer. He takes all the ingredients given to him by Vishnu and the plan given by Vishnu and the creative potency given by Vishnu and the intelligence necessary to put the plan together from Vishnu, and he built the universe. And he lives for the duration of the universe. And his duration of life is 100 years, after which there's cosmic annihilation. And at the end of each day of Brahma, there's a partial annihilation. Partial annihilation means all of the lower planets, there's, according to the Vedic picture, there's 14 planetary systems, 7 lower, 7 upper makes 14. And up to the top 4, Maharloka, Janaloka, Tapaloka, and his planet Brahmaloka, at the end of each day of Brahma, he goes to sleep. It's night. And during the night of Brahma, there's a partial devastation. And during each day of Brahma, which is the duration of 1,000 cycles of the 4 years on Earth, which is a really long time, 1,000 times 4,320,000 years, solar years. That's one day. And during one of those days, each of the days of Brahma, during his entire life, the personality of Godhead, the original person that even from whom Vishnu comes or is expanded, Krishna appears in this creation and performs the same pastimes that he performs in the spiritual world eternally. He performs them on this material plane, on the earth planet, once in Brahma's day. So sometime during his day, which is of long duration, during the 7th Manu. You like details? 7th Manu. Each day of Brahma, there's 14 Manus. You've heard of Manu, right? The giver of laws of mankind, Manu. So there's 14 of them, and Manu number 7 is Vaivasvata Manu. Krishna speaks about him in Bhagavad Gita. He is the son of Vivaswan, the sun god. Krishna says in chapter 4, long ago he instructed Bhagavad Gita to the sun god, who in turn instructed it to his son Manu, Vaivasvata Manu, who in turn instructed it to his son Ikshvaku. In this way, disciplic succession was passed on. Ikshvaku, in fact, brought that knowledge to this earthly realm and started ruling in Ayodhya. Right? The Ikshvaku dynasty commenced in Ayodhya. And Lord Ramachandra is in that same sun dynasty, the Surya dynasty, from the sun god. So, Brahma appears during one of the days of Brahma, during the Manu number 7, Vaivasvata Manu's reign over the universe. And when Krishna appears, Brahma comes to pay to Krishna. Because he knows the Vedas. He knows the Vedas because the Vedas were all manifest within his heart. This is described in the Bhagavatam, Canto 1, the very first verse. Tene Brahma Hridaya Adikavaye. From within the Hrid, or within the heart of Brahma, knowledge of the Vedas was manifest by Krishna. directly. So when Brahma came to pay his respects to Krishna during the reign of Vaivasvata Manu on the earthly plane, he saw a pastime, a series of pastimes performed by Krishna in Vrindavan. Krishna was herding calves. He saw the boys playing. He saw the boys enter the mouth of the Aghasura demon. Krishna entered into the mouth of the Aghasura demon. He expanded himself by mystic power so big that the serpent Aghasura suffocated and the soul left his body, his serpent body, and merged with Krishna's body. He achieved liberation. A demon achieved liberation, being killed by Krishna. And then the cowherd boys went to have lunch because it was around midday. And as they were having their lunch, Brahma became puzzled and curious. How much power does this little boy have? And he got the wrong idea of how to find out. He decided to test Krishna's power, mystic power, by using some of his mystic power and see what Krishna would do. So he stole the calves and cowherd boys while they were having lunch, put them in a cave, and wanted to see what Krishna would do. So what did Krishna do? You know what Krishna did? He manifested identical forms of every single one of the cowherd boys and calves. Identical. And on earthly time, 1 year had passed when the manifestations of Krishna as the sons of his mothers, because the boys were his friends, and their mothers had a desire to have Krishna as their son, so he became their son for 1 year and satisfied their desire. The calves also Krishna became likenesses of each of the calves. The cows had the satisfaction of feeding Krishna directly with their milk as they were feeding their little calves. And in this way, Krishna was reciprocating with their loving desire. And while this 1 year was going on Brahma's time, just some moments, short period of time passed on his time, and then he came before Krishna and offered prayers. There's details. But I've been telling the details every evening, so I'm skipping some details. He offered prayers. And we're up to, we'll be finishing. We're up to verse 35, starting from the beginning of the chapter. So there's Lord Brahma, and there's a verse in the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, which reads, "O my Lord," this is Brahma praying to Vishnu, "your devotees can see you through the ears by the process of bona fide hearing, and thus their hearts become cleansed by hearing, and you take your seat there when the heart is cleansed. You are so merciful to your devotees that you manifest yourself in the particular eternal form of transcendence in which they always think of you." Oh, Krishna is the source of everything. That was displayed to Brahma, the part of what I didn't narrate this evening. Krishna is the source of everything, spiritual and material. The material is just a reflection of the spiritual, but the spiritual reality exists with Krishna, and he showed all of that to Brahma. Now he showed not the various incarnations or forms of himself, but he has unlimited forms because the living entities who he reciprocates the desire of, they have different hearts in the cleansed condition, different hearts, and he shows their form to them, which is the form upon which they always meditate in transcendence. So Brahma is expressing in his prayers, "You're very kind to me. I made this offense by stealing the calves and cowherd boys, yet you showed me this great mercy of all of your potencies, and you're the source of everything, coming from this original form." So the original form, the conclusion is, the original form of all the other forms, that's the absolute truth, whatever that is, and that absolute truth is this form of Krishna in Vrindavan. Here, in this prayer number 35, Brahma is appreciating how fortunate the residents of Vrindavan are. I mean, there's a series of prayers that precede this. The Sanskrit that he uses is Buri Bhaga, several times. Buri Bhaga, up top, Bhagya Mahima, Aho Bhagyam, Aho Bhagyam. Bhagyam means this most fortunate. So he's considering himself the greatest possible good fortune is if he could take birth somewhere in Vrindavan, even a blade of grass, something, anything, where dust could fall on his head, dust from the residents of Vrindavan. Then this verse, he is saying, how are you going to repay these residents of Vrindavan? My mind becomes bewildered. Ayam muyanti. Just trying to think of what reward other than you could be found anywhere. You are the embodiment of all benedictions which you bestow upon these residents of the cowherd community of Vrindavan. You have already arranged to give yourself to Putana and her family members in exchange for her disguising herself as a devotee. So what is left for you to give to these devotees of Vrindavan, whose homes, wealth, friends, dear relations, bodies, children, and their very lives and hearts are all dedicated only to you? So you know the Putana story, right? Yes? Putana story. When Krishna was just very, very, very tiny, Prabhupada says 3 months. Elsewhere it says just a few days old. So very, very tiny child in either case. Putana came to try to kill Krishna, disguised as a devotee. And her plan was she would kill him by acting as if she's a mother, but smearing her breast with poison, so when he would take the milk from her breast, he would die by touching the poison. So Krishna, he took the milk, and he also took her life air, and she died. And she achieved the position of a nurse in the spiritual world assisting Mother Jasoda. Knowing that to be a fact, Brahma is expressing, how are you going to, you did this for Putana, what are you going to do for the devotees of Vrindavan? They don't come like Putana did. You gave her not just liberation, you gave her a place in the eternal spiritual realm, intimately serving alongside Mother Jasoda. So what are you going to give to these devotees here in Vrindavan? And here's Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary. They have given you everything, their home, wealth, friends, dear relations, bodies, children, the very lives and hearts. How are you going to reciprocate with them? You are such a generous giver. You have given yourself to Putana. How then you reciprocate with these Brajvasis? And Vishwanath's conclusion is, you cannot. They've overwhelmed the Supreme Controller with their love. He also indicates Krishna raised their level of love to the mood of pranaya. Krishna raised their level of love to the mood of pranaya. Their ecstasies know no limit. So we're about to conclude the prayers. In delusion, one may think, I'm a great renunciate. I have no possessions, and I have no attachments. I wander alone in the forest. I am more advanced than those householder Vrajvasis who attend cows. To address these and other misguided souls, Brahma concludes his prayers in the following 5 verses. So that's what we're doing now. Conclusion. My dear Krishna, until people become your devotees, their material attachments and desires remain thieves, their homes remain prisons, and their affectionate feelings for their family members remain foot shackles. 37. My dear Master, although you have nothing to do with material existence, you come to this earth and imitate material life just to expand the varieties of ecstatic enjoyment for your surrendered devotees. That is, these devotees in Vrindavan don't think of Krishna as God. They think of him in the intimacy of their relationship with him. Their master, their dear friend, their child, their beloved. So he appears in the world as if one them, a simple cowherd boy, to reciprocate, perfectly reciprocate their love with their simple hearts and their simple way of life, including the cows and all of the other forest animals. There are people who say, I've met some people who say, I know everything about Krishna. Let them think that way. As far as I am concerned, I do not wish to speak very much about this matter. Oh, my Lord, let me say this much. As far as your opulences are concerned, they are all beyond the reach of my mind, body, and words. There's a couch. Just walk across the room. You're all set. And I can attest to this line, one of the common lines when distributing books to people from India. They smile and shake their head like this. I know all about Krishna. It was like a polite no thank you. But Brahma is the most intelligent person in the universe, the original recipient of all the Vedas. And I don't want to speak too much. But as far as he's concerned, what he is seeing, what he has seen during this visit to Vrindavan in that particular day, the reign of Vaivasvata Manu and the 28th Yuga cycle during his, it's basically around midday when he visits, when Krishna comes. Midday of Manu, midday of Brahma. inconceivable. Just 2 more verses. My dear Krishna, I now humbly request permission to leave. Actually, you are the knower and seer of all things. Indeed, you are the Lord of all the universes, and yet I offer this one universe unto you. Of course, it's already his. My dear Sri Krishna, you bestow happiness upon the lotus-like Vrishni dynasty and expand the great oceans consisting of the earth, the demigods, the brahmanas, and the cows. You dispel the dense darkness of irreligion and oppose the demons who have appeared on this earth. O Supreme Personality of Godhead, as long as this universe exists, and as long as the sun shines, I will offer my obeisances unto you. Like every other living being, Brahma has an end. He has a beginning. Everything that has a beginning has an end. The soul of Brahma doesn't have a beginning and an end. Just like the soul of our bodies our souls do not have a beginning or an end. But Brahma has that. The body, it comes and it goes. And when his body goes, not only he goes, but the whole universe goes. That's the cosmic annihilation signal. And then everything is again withdrawn. All the material, prakriti or material nature isn't destroyed. It's just withdrawn. It's withdrawn within the body of Mahavishnu, or in this pradhan state, unmanifest state, undifferentiated state of the total material energy. And the living entities come to a resting position again within the body of Mahavishnu for the equal duration of one of Brahma's lives, which is a long time. And then again, cosmic manifestation and so many universes, and Brahma enters in to each universe, and the thing cycles again and again and again. And Brahma is the head of our sampradaya. He's giving us an opportunity to understand the truths about Krishna. Now he's indicating he can't understand the length and breadth and the totality of him and his potencies and his activities. Here's some concluding statement. You are the ultimate cause and shelter of all living beings. Oh, we did this. I'm sorry. Yeah. There's a series of prayers that we already covered yesterday, where Brahma is placing before this 4-year-old boy the understanding that Krishna is his father, and Krishna is responding, so to speak, my dear Brahma, you're the oldest creature in the universe, and I'm just a little boy. Please consider what he's saying. And because he's very intelligent, he gives an explanation of why that is so. This means Brahma is understanding Krishna's Leela, and Brahma is understanding the good fortune of the residents of Vrindavan to be in his constant association. Now Brahma is going to have to go back. Go back and do what? Well, rule the universe. Do the Brahma Dharma. Do his duties for the duration of the universe. But he's appreciating the kindness that's been extended to him, despite his transgression of interrupting Krishna's pastimes and stealing the calves and cowherd boys, very dear to Krishna. Not that Krishna was in anxiety or anything, because he's omniscient. but the behavior was not so good. At the end of Brahma's prayers, they're over. And at the end of Brahma's prayers, what does Krishna say? Nothing. He doesn't even say, Hari Bol, see you later, or, see you tomorrow. He's silent, acknowledging. But part of the silence is he's not scolding him or admonishing him or anything, because he's become purified just by experiencing what Brahma or Krishna enabled him to experience. That Krishna is, in fact, the source of everything, not just a little boy. But it's also the happiness of Krishna is being with his associates in Vrindavan. So he took a little time out to be with Brahma, because Brahma's a great devotee, but his greatest attraction is the loving relationships with the cowherd boys. And so he goes back and resumes having lunch with the cowherd boys. Now, going into the next chapter, we find something very interesting. As Krishna still has a morsel of yogurt and rice in his hand, so do also the boys. They haven't even eaten a morsel yet. They're like in suspended animation or something, covered by Yogamaya. They haven't eaten for a whole year. What little boys can do that a whole year? And the food that was in front of them on their little plates, it hasn't gotten stale. They did grow 1 year's worth, because little boys grow. So everything was, in other words, everything was moving by his Yogamaya potency. And as soon as he came back, they said, "Oh, Krishna, you're so attached, you can't be away from this for a short while. Sit down and finish your lunch." Those boys that were these are the same boys that were in the cave. But now they're not in the cave anymore. It doesn't give the detail of how he got from the cave to back in their lunch place. But their, unfinished lunch is still right in front of them. And Krishna smiles, and they finish their lunch. Lunch is over. Time to go back to Vrindavan, to the village, because the pastime is now complete. One of the characteristics of Krishna, he's clever. And one of the descriptions of his being clever is by one thing he can accomplish many things. So he's accomplished many things. He reciprocated with the cows. He reciprocated with the mothers. He reciprocated with the fathers. There's a nice pastime. One day, during that 1 year that Krishna was the calves and cowherd boys, the cows were grazing on the side of Govardhan Hill, and the cows saw the calves. Moo, off they went to be with their calves, which was Krishna. And then the cowherd men saw the cows. You ever seen a cow run? It's really funny. Normally they walk really slowly, but I've seen cows run. So they were running down the hill, galloping down the hill. And the cowherd men were chasing behind them. Stop! Whatever language they would say, with their sticks raised and the whole thing, and they wouldn't stop. But so their anger, the cowherd men were completely, freed from anger, because when they got to the bottom of the hill, they saw their sons, who were Krishna. And seeing Krishna, they forgot everything. And the calves were able to take milk from the cows, because that's only supposed to happen during milking time, but spontaneous love took over. They didn't wait for milking time. Krishna was reciprocating with the cowherd men, the cowherd mothers, the cows, and for that matter, all the other living entities who were in contact with Krishna or in contact with the cowherd boys, all the other elders in Vrindavan. Yeah. During the course of that year, it's described, even Balaram, because he wasn't there that day, that the Aghasura demon was killed. They had to attend to some ritual that Rohini wanted him to do, so he stayed back. During that 1 year that Krishna was the cowherd boys, Balaram didn't know, although he's omniscient. Now, how's that possible? Because Yogamaya made that arrangement that Krishna's loving pastime can go on unimpeded. Towards the end of the 1 year, Yogamaya curtain started to pull back a little bit, and a little bit, and a little bit. And Balaram could start to understand, hey, wait a minute. These aren't Krishna's friends. This is Krishna. And he asked Krishna, is this what's going on? And Krishna just smiled. And then the year was over. And then somehow the cowherd boys didn't know that they had been under Yogamaya influence for a whole year. And they went back at the end of that day, after 1 year, to tell everybody about the event of the killing of Aghasura demon that took place 1 year ago, as if it had happened the same day. Yogamaya is very, makes time and space very flexible. No problem. Krishna wants a pastime, no problem. We had this discussion. Did you read those 2 articles by Ravindra? Not yet? Okay. Today. Okay, so we had some nice, Mataji had some nice questions about eternal time and past, present, and future time. But here's an example where 1 year passed on the earthly plane, and 1 moment passed a few moments passed in Brahma's plane. And the cowherd boys didn't know that any time had passed. So time is very flexible for Krishna's pastimes. And actually, the pastimes are eternal, which is another mystery. Because we speak about them as if it's past, present, future. Like once upon a time, and then something, and then the pastime ended. Sounds like past, present, future. One explanation that's given is a very nice explanation. One of the ways to understand that Krishna's pastimes are eternal, even in this material realm, is that they're eternally going on somewhere. In other words, like the sun is rising somewhere on earth. Every moment, every moment, every moment, every moment, somewhere the sun is setting on earth. Every moment, every moment, every moment. And as it's rising here, then it's going to rise there, it's going to rise there. Similarly, as Krishna is appearing in the prison house of Kamsa, the arrangement for Krishna's appearing in the prison house of Kamsa is about to happen in another universe. And as he appears in this universe, shortly thereafter he appears in another universe, etc. Then there's the whole cycle through the duration of a universe. And then those pastimes are withdrawn. because the universe is withdrawn, but they're eternally existing on the spiritual plane, and when the universe is manifest again, they're eternally going on the material plane, but eternal pastimes. Every one of them, like this one, Brahma's prayers. And the truths that are spoken by Brahma, they're eternal truths. Because in every universe there's a Brahma. And every universe there's 14 Manus, and every day of Brahma. And there's same things. The details vary. The details vary, but the essential pastime is the same. That's another mystery. Another mystery. Prabhupada explains that mystery this way. Variety is the mother of enjoyment. So Krishna's pastimes follow a certain theme, but each time he does the pastime, because they're eternal, there's some variety, because variety is the mother of enjoyment. For example, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, we hear about Krishna subduing the Kaliya serpent and returns back to Ramanaka Lake. Sometimes Krishna not just subdues Kaliya serpent, but he takes the gopis with him onto the hoods of the Kaliya serpent, and they perform dance pastimes on the hoods of the Kaliya serpent together. Like the hoods have become a dance platform. And sometimes the Kaliya serpent is assisting Krishna to take, instead of Akrura bringing Krishna to Mathura, sometimes Kaliya brings Krishna to Mathura. He becomes like Garuda, a personality that does conveyance. There's a prayer in one of the Puranas where he prays to Krishna like that. Please allow me to be your servant in conveying you like Garuda conveys, and I can move very quickly. So Krishna facilitates. So there's variety. And there's other nice examples. There's variety. The purpose of the variety is Krishna's enjoyment. The purpose of the pastime is Krishna's enjoyment. The purpose of Krishna's pastimes may also be to illuminate the heart of Brahma, in this case, or other devotees, and to give them an opportunity to speak his glories. Or that's for our benefit. And, hearing about the enchanting pastimes that Krishna engages in with his devotees, that's purifying too. What to speak of the prayers and the teachings embedded within those prayers. So that's the conclusion of chapter 14 of Canto 10. See if there's some discussion. Way over in the corner.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. So my question is, does Krishna appears always in same yuga?
Always where?
Always in same yuga in all the universes?
Yes. Yes. There's consistency in his pastime. He's not obliged, but he does.
And the duration is also same for him?
Duration?
Mm-hmm.
I don't have the answer to that, because I don't know how long, duration of those other because there's variety from universe to universe, as far as I understand, and how time passes in those other universes, I don't know. They are created around the same time, they're annihilated around the same time, so maybe it's the same. Maybe there's variety, so I don't know. I've never been asked that question before. So whether it's the same duration by our solar years, or it's on another time scale because it's a higher realm of consciousness on the plane where Krishna appears, then if that's the case, then the appearance of passage of time will be different. Just like the appearance of passage of time on the heavenly planets is different than here. Or our passage of time is different than a mosquito or a bug or, a germ or some other living entity of lower life form. Time is relative. So probably, but I don't know. Something else?
That's all I have.
Okay.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Lord Brahma has such a long life.
You're not on yet. Now?
Oh, no. Life is on. Life.
Okay, go.
Okay, sorry. So, Lord Brahma has such a long life. I forgot the calculation, but 1,000.
It's long.
So, you guys spoke with us. And
That's one day.
one day.
And then there's a night. And then there's 30 days, and there's 12 months, and 1 year, Yeah.
And he's the most intelligent person.
Yeah, so what about us, right?
Yes. And on the other hand, we have very short life. And we are very unintelligent, and most of us are unintelligent. So my question was, such a short life, and
What's the hope?
I tend to think, especially my work or some other things which I postpone, thinking I have so much time left, And I know we have such a short time. So what is our...
What's the cure for procrastination? Is that your question?
Not procrastination. What is our next action? With such a short life, how should we progress? How rapidly should take on Krishna consciousness?
Those are several different questions. So, how should we progress, given that our life is short, and we're less qualified than Brahma, etc., etc.? In principle, the simple recommendation by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is acknowledging all of, the preamble of your question. Therefore, take shelter of Krishna, and especially there's this benediction with the chanting of the holy name of Krishna, and accompanying the chanting the holy name of Krishna is hearing Hari Katha. So that's 2. Hearing, so then it implies 3. That means sadhu sangha, Hari Katha, the holy name, and worshipping a deity form in course of time. Those are some principal means, especially starting with the chanting of the holy name, to help us short-lived, less intelligent, less fortunate Kali Yuga folks make some significant spiritual progress. One who has faith in that process and applies themselves with faith to the process, then there's a nice verse in Krishna's teachings to Uddhava that such a person will advance rapidly. In the verse that Krishna speaks to Uddhava, faith in the hearing process is the operative qualifier. It doesn't have to, faith in the hearing process doesn't mean you have a big intellect. Because a very simple person having faith in the hearing process can become very elevated, far more elevated than a puffy wuffy. That's my language for, a very proud intellectual person. They can make so much advancement with a short duration and not so intelligent, materially speaking, but have great faith in the hearing process. Hearing the name and hearing the pastimes, etc. Great spiritual progress. And the whole thing, the whole swift progress potential rests upon the holy name. Because within the Bhagavatam, there's so many names, again and again. It's very clever. Bhagavatam is laced with names. I don't like chanting so much. I like the Bhagavatam. Okay, read the Bhagavatam. Get lots of names. And that's our hope. Whatever our situation is, or that's our situation. And acknowledging the situation. Mercy is especially arranged easy for the sage. Correct? You don't know? Well, read Prabhupada's books, then you'll know. And take up the process with your heart, and you'll know from direct experience, in addition to on the authority of. Okay. Anyone else? You have online something? Okay, go for it.
Govinda Mohini Mataji's question is about how to deal with, or what is a good response to someone, what is a good response to say when people say that I know all about Krishna?
My answer to a question like that is it depends. Depends on the time, place, circumstance, person, your relationship with them. Depends. You can refer them, one option is you can refer them to this verse, and then the whole picture. Another option is you can start asking them some questions. Okay, since you know all about Krishna, then can you tell me such and such? Anyway, it depends.
Amara Mataji has two questions. The first question is, did Lord Brahma know only Garbhodakashaya Vishnu to be his master, and that's why he got bewildered to see baby Krishna to be so powerful?
No. Because he got bewildered because this 4-year-old boy Krishna showed him all opulences, the unlimitedness of his all opulences, including equal Narayan forms, etc., etc., etc.
The second question is, when Lord Mahavishnu lies down in Garbhodak ocean,
when Lord Vishnu lies down in the Garbhodak ocean,
all living entities are inside his body.
All the one universe's worth of living entities. Not all living entities, because there's so many universes and so many Garbhodakshaya Vishnus.
Then later, when Lord Brahma does the creation, and when Manus and further progeny comes, do those same living entities that were inside the body of Garbhodakshaya Vishnu come out in these different forms?
That's where the seed comes from, and then the bodies are supplied by the Prajapatis and their wives.
Next question is from Shrida Prabhu. Because Krishna's pastimes are eternal, when he appears at a different place, does his pure devotees in the pastimes also expand?
Yes. That's very important. Yes, unlimitedly. Don't ask for the technology, but for the service of Krishna. Prabhupada taught this. Brihat Bhagavatamrita says it twice. So the answer is yes.
Next question is Madhukar Prabhu. Do Lord Krishna's Leelas same on other universes as on this earth? Is it correct that Krishna's Leelas we hear are that happen in this universe?
Do you understand what the question is? Because
Is it the same set of pastimes that happen here happen in other places too?
Sure. There's variety, but the same theme and the same, rasa exchange, same mood of love, and there's variety. I mean, it's like the sabji that Krishna has in this universe may be a different sabji in the next universe. Behind you.
Thank you, Maharaj.
I was thinking that how Brahma, being the head of our sampradaya and also being the chief living entity, the first one, and so powerful, a wonderful family, a scholar, everything. So he's become authority for us, in terms of his prayers, and Prabhupada said that we have to believe in this. It seems like the story is so deep.
The story of?
The Brahma, Vimohan Leela, is so deep that it kind of establishes the fact that Krishna is the Supreme Lord and none other.
Yes. Yes.
So how is it that other people, I've heard that there's a group that doesn't accept the story of Brahma Vimohan Leela.
Yeah. Why not?
Because they don't want to accept Krishna.
No, that's not the reason. Well, there may be some people that have that reason. But one of the groups of people is the followers of Mudracharya. Because Mudracharya has a particular place for Lord Brahma. And so the particular place for Lord Brahma that's held by Mudracharya says, this is an interpolated story, and doesn't accept it. He doesn't comment on it. And his followers don't comment on it. Because he becomes bewildered. That's like, another distinction between the teachings of Madhvacharya and the teachings of Lord Chaitanya, although he's in the line of Madhvacharya, is Madhvacharya teaches there's a hierarchy of Jivas. You're aware of that, right? And hierarchy is determined by their flawlessness. I mean, among other things. And so Brahma is not going to make something like this. And so, the other is Brahma becoming attracted to his daughter. Just like doesn't accept it, doesn't comment on it. It's just like it doesn't exist.
So they say that Brahma is still a jiva, but flawless.
He's way up there in flawlessness. There's more details. If you're interested in that particular topic, Hari Parshad Prabhu made one of his classic 3-part descriptions of the teachings of Madhvacharya. And there's lots of similarity when it comes to this, the Jivas. It's quite dissimilar. And it's connected with this similarity of his conception of jivas and how they're ranked in hierarchy. If you're interested, I'll send to him the link.
Thank you very much.
Mudracharya's teachings. Yeah, I've listened to it about 4 times. It's very detailed, very carefully done, as is Hari Parshad's way of doing things. And there's a fair amount of contrasting with Shankaracharya's teachings, because that's one of the staunch positions of Madhva is, stand up to Shankaracharya and refute it. So there's a lot of that in there too. It's really good. Something else? You've been very patient.
Sometimes we hear that devatas, during a time of annihilation, they go in their planes to the upper planets.
Yes.
So is it like many, when does they go, like?
At partial annihilation. At the end of a day of Brahma.
So it looks like at the end of the day, everyone goes back to the body of Vishnu because...
No, that's the end of life of Brahma.
Okay.
There's some other details, but that's enough.
There's Amara Mataji is requesting some clarification or offering clarification on her question. My previous question was about Lord Brahma's bewilderment before seeing the Vishnu Murtis.
Before seeing?
The Vishnu forms when he hid the calves. So before even the whole entire Leela.
Okay.
Why did he even want to test Krishna's powers?
Well, Yogamaya. He was being influenced to have a nice pastime with Krishna, which included spending a whole year as cowherd boys. So the cowherd boys, it's to facilitate a pastime. So being curious is not a problem. Kidnapping is a problem. And some pride. There's some indication, some pride. And that pride was withdrawn. That's it?
There's Shrida Prabhu has a second part of his question, which I did not read out. When Krishna appears in different places, the first question was, does his pure devotees in the pastimes also expand? The second part of the question is, or is it like different devotees in different universes take the role of Arjuna, for example?
That's not my understanding. I'll because he's coming up a second time. Twice Narada Muni instructs like that to Gopakumar, because Gopakumar sees him in several places and said, wait a minute, I saw you here, I saw you there, and now I'm seeing you here again. This was in Vaikuntha. He saw him several places. And Narada says, I explained this to you previously, but here we go again. In service to the personality of Godhead, we're present in multiple places simultaneously, and many devotees are like that. But here's the Giriraj Maharaj story. You know this one? Morning walk, Juhu, Giriraj Maharaj to Prabhupada. Krishna's pastimes are eternal. He's always appearing in some universe. Does that mean that Arjuna is also there in some other universe? When he's with Krishna doing the Kurukshetra battle and things? And Prabhupada said yes. So does that mean there's multiple Arjunas? And Prabhupada said yes. But it's not like another soul playing the part of, like an actor on a stage. It's Arjuna. and Arjuna and Arjuna and Arjuna, and how many universes are there? That's how many Arjunas. But it's one Arjuna. Now, it's not, again, I said, don't ask me the technology, because, okay, Krishna's all-powerful, Krishna can expand himself unlimitedly because he's all-powerful, no problem. Jivas aren't all-powerful. So how they can have multiple presences simultaneously? There's no technology explanation. It's just for assisting Krishna in his pastimes. Krishna makes such arrangement. Like, and it's not the same, at least my understanding is it's not the same that when Krishna manifested exact likenesses of each of the cowherd boys for 1 year, it was Krishna. It wasn't the cowherd boy in a cave and the cowherd boy that wasn't in the cave. It was Krishna and the cowherd boys that were in the cave. But for Krishna's pastimes, which are different than reciprocating with the mothers and the cows, it's multiple manifestations of the one Arjuna. Without an explanation of technology, it's Krishna's potencies are without limit. As he can manifest one Arjuna, he can manifest unlimited Arjunas for his pastimes. It's mind-boggling. Okay, looks like we're done. Over here.
Hare Krishna.
It's a trick. You have to pat it rightly, and then it'll.
Maharaj, today we were seeing the verse about Krishna's mercy, how he's even so merciful to Putana, and he makes her his mother. And then also a few days ago, you had a verse which was saying how Krishna is unlimitedly compassionate. His compassion is unlimited. So I was curious how we can understand and also explain to others this point, because just like in because his compassion, Krishna's compassion, such horrible things happen. Just like we have this war going on, and Krishna's compassion does not seem to be visible, and we can always attribute it somehow or the other to Krishna's compassion. But it's almost like there's in like philosophy, there's this theory that is called egoism or ethical egoism, that says that whatever a person does, they do for their self-interest. They do it because even if they're being kind to someone, they're ultimately doing it because they're selfish. And when responding to that, people say, well, this theory isn't right because whatever a person does, you can always say, oh, they're selfish. But the fact is that there's no way to verify that. There's no way to falsify it. The fact is, when people do things, they actually do it out of their goodness. In the same way, whatever happens, we can always say it's Krishna's compassion. But there's really no way, if he's really compassionate, why isn't he, sending a devotee or sending more devotees? Or if he's very compassionate to his devotees, why are they suffering so much? One can always say that, but how can we verify it? How can we understand that actually God's compassion is there?
Well, how can we verify? Two things come to mind. How can you verify anything? How can you know that you exist? How can you verify anything? You have to have some pramana. And the means of verification can be, multiple, but the topmost verification is Shabda. But, then, okay, that's your faith, but what if I don't have that faith? I see something else, because another kind of faith. So then it's resting on faith plus Shabda. Now there's going to be some reason and logic about the merit of Shabda as opposed to the senses and reasoning power, which is also relying upon the senses, and that, that's reasonable. Then I can say, okay, I accept Shabda because it's reasonable. So yeah, it can be endless, infinite regress, as they say. It requires the pramana, or means of knowing something. And Shabda Pramana is the best means of knowing things. So we can know through Shabda Pramana. And if we act with faith and Shabda Pramana, then there's some experience. Like the classic example that's there in the Bhagavatam, as a person who has fasted, upon eating, they experience three things. So also one who takes up the bhakti process with faith, they experience three things. And that's a verification through experience. But the verification through experience is ultimately it's resting upon Shabda. So supposing I don't have faith in Shabda, then you're going to have faith in something else. And your means of verification is going to be something else. So you're not going to accept. So it sounds a little circular, but you can't eliminate faith from the soul. That's one of the questions in Bhagavad Gita. Supposing divisions of faith, supposing someone doesn't have faith in you, are they going to have faith in something? In other words, is faith intrinsic to the soul? The answer is yes. Modes of nature, this kind, that kind, the other kind. Divisions of faith. So someone wants verification, that was the question, and verification comes through Shabda. That's very reasonable, and those who have faith in Shabda can have that experience. That's their verification. Oh, fully. But that's a means for verification. Do you have a different answer? Being a philosopher, or
No, it almost seems, the problem is that it almost seems like anything that goes bad in this world, a person could attribute it to Krishna's compassion. But it's just like but we almost make the same criticism to the materialists that,
Sure. Oh yeah. We're very clever. But then it comes down to pramana. How do you know anything? You can become an existentialist and says something else. You can't know anything. I just exist, that's all. That's all I know. Nothing matters because you can't verify anything. That's an option. And that's another conviction. How do you know? How do you know that? Means of it, there has to be some. It's just an axiomatic principle. There has to be some evidence, some means of knowing, epistemology, pramana. You accept, or you don't accept, then you accept something else. Or as George Harrison said, the proof of the pudding is in the eating. That was that, Bhaktir parishano bhavo viraktir anyatra cha. Three things happen when you follow the bhakti process properly, and that's verification.
So for devotees who are practicing, like Putana, she was accepted by Krishna as her mother, even though she came with ill intention. So those devotees who are not on the level of Rajvasis, but they're still not coming to Krishna, they're coming to Krishna favorably. Given this verse, should they feel that, can they feel that Krishna, that Krishna will, is this verse literally to be accepted, that they will also, if Krishna is giving Putana that rule, then at least if the devotee is not trying to kill Krishna, they must be then, Krishna must be taking them back home, back to God.
Well, Krishna is not obliged. Because we offer a leaf or a flower or of water, Krishna is obliged now. I mean, there's such an idea that's out there, but Krishna is not bound by such a rule. His kindness is universal, but his kindness can be manifest in varieties of ways. I was thinking in response to this question, it's quite logical to say Krishna's compassion is behind everything, even when bad things happen, because there's a purpose behind bad things happening. As much as there's purpose behind a parent not awarding their child something that's detrimental to them, or taking that detrimental thing away from them. And the child may scream and cry and so forth. But it's the compassionate parent that takes away something detrimental from a child. And then, there's gradations of all of that. So the wars and all those horrible things, it's a dealing of it is the external energy a manifestation of Krishna's compassion. Is the compassionate nature of Krishna folded into the illusory energy? And the answer is definitely. But then that's also a matter of scripture, Shabda Praman, and faith. But it's quite reasonable. It's quite reasonable that it invites one to ask, just like Sanatana Goswami asked Lord Chaitanya, why threefold miseries? Not how do I get free from them, but for starters, why do they exist? Why is there suffering? Why is there repeated birth and death? Why is there wars? Why isn't it all nice? Well, we walked away from the all nice place. And so we're being reminded it's not nice over here. Oh, that's not compassionate. It's compassionate. We're responsible for our choice, and we're being reminded it was a mistake. There is a nice place. This isn't it. And that's part of compassion, is to help people understand when you're dealing with something that's detrimental to you and others, it's unpleasant. And that's compassion, to help one understand that. Some people can understand it just by hearing. Some people, the classic. Some people can understand by hearing and seeing. Some people can understand by hearing, seeing, and experiencing. And some people can't understand it all. It's compassion to try to help people understand. But there's also the free will that people don't want to, their capacity to understand has been withdrawn because their attitude is so bad, so covered. Okay. Any question from you? You all have some really nice questions. Okay. Okay. Thank you, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Prabhupada Maharaj.